Hey guys, welcome to my first recording here. In this video, we're going to be making a low poly sword. Right now, I've got Krita open, and what you're seeing me do is get everything set up. Right now, I'm adding the mirror tool and locking the axis so that I can see around it, or rather, that I can not see that little emblem. And I'm just starting out with sort of a weird, interesting shape. The symmetry really does wonders for making, especially weapons. At least that's what I've found. So this is just kind of like this is going to be my base reference. I'm just kind of fiddling around. I do this quite a bit, so all this is just kind of flowing. This is all for this video, and it's kind of just it's just off the top of my head. It's nothing fancy. It's just using the symmetry, really. But I'm going to make a handle here, and I ran out of room for the pommel, so I'm just going to kind of go off to the side, and no, that didn't work. Let me see here. I'm going to move the symmetry line. Am I going it's an interesting shape. Interesting enough, but nah, I don't. Okay. Oh, I didn't move the symmetry line this go around. The cool thing about when you go into Blender is you can use the mirror modifier. So realistically, I only need 1/2. So what you're seeing me do here is I'm exporting this little image so that I can then import it into Blender and use that as my reference. So just give it whatever name. And yeah, so gonna go ahead and close this out. Now I don't need to save it. I've got the exported image. Let's go to Blender and let it load up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and delete the default cube because I don't want to use it this go around. There's a little bit of a joke online about always deleting the default cube, but sometimes I use it. And not sure what that audio was, but oh well. Anyway, I've got the reference image in, and we're going to add we're going to add in a mesh so that we can get started here. What was that? Huh. Anyway, add a cube. We're going to collapse it to 1 vertice. Move it up just a little bit so that I can, see what I'm working with. There is a way to change the opacity of your image so you don't have to do that, but this for me that's just kind of my workflow. I'll move it forward. And here I'm just extruding this vertice up along the silhouette of the blade. And okay, we get up here to the top, and these smaller curves, they're kind of a pain when it comes to getting good topology, but we leave ourselves enough vertices there to where it looks like a clean curve. And I'm going to extrude down. I had clipping on so that it would maintain just 1 vertice there. and I'm just going to keep doing the same thing, just extruding around. And yeah, while I kind of outline the shape here, gonna let you guys know kind of why I decided to make these videos. If you look at my YouTube channel, you might see some, videos from years ago, playing Divinity. There's a joke about, you know, by the time a man hits his 30s, he's already had a failed YouTube channel, failed Twitch channel, you know, been through eh, what 5 jobs, something like that. But you know, that was me. I was really going along that path. Um, Real quick, back to the modeling here. What I'm doing is starting to fill in with faces, and I'm doing this outside first because it's going to be a little bit more intricate. So I'm just using the F key to fill when I do this. Um, and You can hit Control R to replicate the previous, what's the word, input sequence, I guess. So I'm just selecting vertices as I go up and filling in. And when we have all the faces, we're gonna fill in that middle part. This is me just adjusting for topology. But yeah, like I was saying, recording, video editing thing. So um, yeah, I just wanted to make these videos so someone maybe would see some of the stuff that I do. Um, I kind of thought, or I think pretty often actually, what's the point of making this art if there's no one to appreciate it? Well, we've got all the edge faces made, and we're going to come in and we're just going to close in this last bit of the mesh, and we're going to take this vertex and join it at the bottom and use the fill tool, fill it, and just kind of drag it out a little bit so that yeah, we just drag it out a little bit so that it fits better, or not fits better, but it looks like there's an edge on it. Now we're going to fiddle around with some of these little, what would you call them, curves. I feel like there's another word for it that I'm just missing. But we're going to fill in, try to get the topology looking good. We've got it shaded auto smooth so that it just it looks a little neater. We have the edge for the middle face set to sharp so that it's very pronounced in the shade smooth. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. I mean, not half bad for what have we been doing this for 8 minutes. Ooh, the top looks a little weird there. Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna address that now. I'm just dragging the point back on the y-axis a bit so that it looks better, more realistic. You know, point's not gonna be flush with the flat of the blade. And then we're gonna get mirror on the y-axis as well, so we have our full completed blade. This is something that I've done quite a bit, and it works very well with most shapes for weapons. Uh, and now we are going to start on the guard. And, I just did the same thing again. Bring in a cube, collapse it, set up a mirror modifier, and extrude along the edge. This is a more intricate guard than I normally make. Um, I'm not 100% sure it's going to look great, but this is kind of what I went with, and this being a trial run of like, hey, can I just sit down, make a sword, and Krita, however you pronounce it, and just model it, you know, not exactly as like a speed model or speed draw, but just kind of sit down, see how fast I can get moving with it. So we're just extruding along the silhouette again, and as we're going along, just trying to keep the vertices count kind of high so that the curves look good. Um, you don't have to follow these silhouettes perfectly. You know, there's gonna be mm, there's gonna be times where it doesn't fit. Like I'm sure you can see a few points, especially on the mirrored side, where it just doesn't look like it fit right. So right there, I just filled in everything. And let's see, what are we doing here? Before I extrude it, I'm going to connect all these vertices, and that way topology won't be a complete mess. I won't have to do it twice. You know, so we're just kind of filling in here. You know, hopefully I'll have some nice royalty-free music that we can rock out to in these silent moments. Because, you know, there's not a whole lot to say right about here. But these points, the tip, yeah, I deleted something. The points, or where things come to a point, are a bit rough. And I'm sure if any of you guys have, you know, very likely more experience in Blender than me for projects, you're probably screaming at me about something that I'm doing that is not very smart. So if that is the case, um, could you yell at me in the comment section? Because realistically, there's going to be stuff I don't know, and it's going to frustrate some of y'all. And it would frustrate me too if I knew it. But I'm sure that stuff that I'm doing wrong, I just flat out don't know that it's wrong. So what I did there is I extruded it. I extruded the guard forward, and then I rotated to give it sort of a bladed look where it's thick in the middle and then it gets thinner as it goes out. I found that that works really well um, when you're making a sort of area to set a handle. So I've got it shaded auto smooth just to kind of look at the topology, see does it look okay. Um, right here, I'm gonna just adjust this a little bit. You know what? I think I'm just gonna take, see what this does. No, no, I don't think that that's gonna work. Mm, let's see. You know, in these pause moments, I'm like thinking, I'm like, what? How should I do this? What should I do here? And realistically, I bet I control Z'd uh, and got rid of that point because, man, that did not look good. So I think I just kind of left it alone. And here we are making the handle. Um, one of my favorite things to do with handles is uh, really just use a cylinder and then use the shrink tool or shrink wrap tool and screw tool or modifiers to make a wrapped handle. Uh, see, I'll bring in toruses as sort of like a bind where the guard meets the handle, and I'll fit it a little bit better just because and that kind of covers up the seam a little bit. Of course, there is a seam where the torus itself meets, but I just, from my personal opinion, I think that this looks pretty good. Um, Looks more realistic to me, because I mean, yeah, to me it looks great. Uh, I'm sure that some of you guys out there are probably looking at this and being like, "Man, this is kind of tacky. Not the best way to do that." Um, and again, that's very possible. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that I just don't know. I've been fiddling around with this program for, holy moly, like 8 years, something like that. But I've just been doing that fiddling, you know. Uh, mm, yeah, scaling those together doesn't look like it's going to work right. So, uh, no, no, yeah, we're just going to do them individually. We'll pick some numbers to scale it to, and then that way, because what I'm doing is I'm extruding and then scaling, and then I just got them in the same size. This is, I think, the first time I've done a handle that looks like this. And after looking at it, I was like, that's kind of cool, Thought about it, and I was like, it's interesting. It's something different. Uh, I brought another little Taurus, Taurus up to be kind of like a ring in the middle, another bind, and I really like the way that looks. So we're gonna set that there, and let's select all of these, and let's just join them together because they're a simple shape. I just like having them together as one. Typically, when I go to add a material or paint them, they're just a solid color. Um, and, I would leave them separate if I wanted to do like individual designs on them, but that's just, I don't think it's necessary for something that's that small. That if I wanted that in like this weapon in a game, it'd probably be primarily covered up by the hand, and then as well, it will also, be it'll be small. You won't be able to see it very well. So here I'm just, you know, going through the same setup, outlining with vertices, filling in, extruding, rotating, and we get this neat little shape here. Uh, it looks kind of like, I thought it looked like a dragon foot, like a footprint. Um, and we're just gonna move it into place. Look on the side view. I'm gonna, oh yeah, we need to do some cuts with the knife tool. That is K on your keyboard. Um, I will figure out how to get the on-screen inputs for the next video if this one does well. Um, and heck, if it doesn't do well, I might make another video anyway. You know, like I said, it's more to get my art out, you know, than anything. So we're just going to rotate this, pull it in, give it a little bit of a more interesting shape instead of being so flat. And right here, I'm probably thinking, you know, or being talked to. I do have a family. I got two beautiful kids and a beautiful wife. So, they might be talking to me right now and needing my help. I'm like, oh, I'm back. Like, all right, what am I doing here? Ooh, all right. And I might edit that part out. Might not. Who knows? But here we go. We are. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'm making a diamond. This is the way that I typically will do kind of a simple stone. I'm just deleting that back edge or that back half so that I can add a mirror modifier. I find it easier to work with, instead of doing all the inputs twice. And I'm just going to add some more vertices here to inset, and we're going to pull out a little bit. That way it has a more interesting shape than just, you know, a perfectly flat edge. Mm, let's see. Yeah, let's scale it in on the Y. Turn on clipping, move them together, and it looks pretty good. Scale it to fit properly. We can have it poking out the top because the handle's going to hide that. Oh, I drug it down anyway. I'm kind of a stickler for details like that. And we selected the edge there and uh, marked it as sharp. We're marking the edges as sharp as well. And we should be setting the shading to auto smooth here in a moment so that when when we look at it, it looks pretty neat. All right. So this is the entire sword. This is it completely modeled out. We don't have it bound together, and that was a cut. We're kind of back into it. I don't like the way this looks, so we are gonna change this a little bit. We merged at center, and I'm gonna figure out how to bevel vertice. You can see me hitting the keybinds. There's so many keybinds with this program that I get them mixed up all the time. And so we've beveled that vertices, and we're kind of playing around with the number of added vertices. Um, this is a pretty dense little area right here, but that does look much better. You can see from this close in that there is still a little bit of weird, uh, not exactly artifacting, but, well, maybe artifacting. It just looked funky. We're going to try to inset this. I think I just undid that. I think I left that alone. And I'm trying something else here. So we've inset. We're going to make sort of an extrusion here to add like a little lip around the edge of the blade. It's just a nice little detail. Something to make the blade itself a little more interesting. Um, Apart from its just base shape. So we've got all these faces selected and we just extrude ever so slightly. So now we've got this little tiny lip around it. And gonna adjust some of these vertices, you know, move them around just a hair so that it looks like it kind of slopes instead of it just comes straight out. Alright, so we got that done. Yeah, I'm kind of liking the way that looks. There's something weird going on right there. I think you guys can see it, but it's like, what is that? Well, I think we've got multiple vertices, or we just don't have vertices that are connected properly. Like, when I said connected, I meant like they weren't clipped together. So we're gonna figure out what's going on here. You can see me moving that back and forth like, oh, is this clipped together right? What's going on? And, this is really showcasing my process as well. Like, okay, so now that must have been the issue because it's gone. That weird artifact, that line straight down the middle, that's gone, which is good because, man, I do not like that. Now we're rotating around, looking at everything, making sure everything is set up pretty good. Mm, let's see how this looks. Not bad, if I do say so myself, but I admit I am biased. So I'm going to move in here, and this is where I use the Smart UV project to unwrap everything. This is, from my understanding, not a good way to do this. Um, Not the best way, for sure. Um, but I'm not. This is the way I know to do it. Uh, I unwrap everything and I use a Blender add-on called Yuku Paint. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I could be butchering that. That could be very wrong. But I'm unwrapping everything so that I can hand paint uh, the models. You know, I don't do a whole lot of hand painting, but you know, yeah, I do what I do. What you see me doing here is I'm selecting our little lip on the blade so that I can mask that because I want that to be a different color than the rest of the blade. Um, it's an interesting detail, and it would be more interesting for it to be a different color, like a color that clashes. Um, I'm a huge fan of dark colored blades, like a near black. Um, and I think gold really accents that well. I think that's what I go with here. Um, but, I could have gone with something very different. Uh, okay, so this is one of my favorite things to do is make a Voronoi texture. And I am gonna get rid of the color. I don't want the color. I want the roughness, the metallic, the bump. And I'm just gonna scale this way up because I want this to look kind of like Flex when we get to the coloring part. Um, I fiddle around with these settings here, just, kind of, I do it mostly by sight. And there we go. We've got a bump and a metallic. So I kind of like that effect. Let's scale it a little bit to see. Yeah, yeah, right about there is good. I'm going to turn down the opacity on it so that it's not so in my face. I want it to be a little bit more subtle. And we're going to add a noise texture over that as well, um, just to kind of dilute. I feel like the noise texture does pretty good for making metal textures. Um, there's a guy that I watch his tutorials, Ryan King Art, and I kind of got this idea after watching him make procedural metal textures and or materials, and I was like, oh wow, that works really well doing things this way. So I'm getting everything set up to get things ready for the coloring at portion. So I've got the noise texture and the Voronoi, and I'm just going to edit these values just a hair so that you know, I can see them a bit better. Uh, all right, so now let's pick our color. And yes, it's a very dark gray. And there we go. Eh, kind of a rough iron uh, texture. And we're going to make another color, a layer with image mask, I believe is what it's called. And it looks like we're going red. So we've got like a dark gray and red blade. And yeah, just looking around, making sure it's working on all edges. It looks a little weird there. Hmm. Oh, that's annoying. Seeing some weird stuff happening here, and I know what the issue is going to be, um, but there is an issue, and I'll kind of get to it when I come to it. Well, it's actually right here, and I'm like, whoa, why is that was weird? It was doing something I didn't want it to do. I think maybe that was a different model because I make weapons quite a bit. I would like to sell these assets on the Unity store uh, one of these days, but right now uh, this is just kind of what I do. This is a hobby. So we're making another layer or another image texture on a layer, and let's see. Hmm. Get the bump to where it looks like it is inset. All right. And this is where, you know, as you can probably tell, I love symmetry. I love making designs based off of symmetry. So this is just something that I like to do. Uh, kind of add these little details in, draw it on there. I've got this little drawing tablet that I use. Um, Realistically, I could do this with a mouse, but it just feels so much better to do it with a drawing tablet. And, as I go up, I'm just, you know, drawing. Like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't like touching that edge. Yep. Have it kind of, no. Let's see, let's try again. Go in, go up, and then add some more detail in here. Um, these shapes, realistically, they don't have to mean anything. Um, I just want, I just want there to be something interesting happening on the blade. You know, realistically, I could have been done with this model by now. I could have just put the base color, the little bit of red, and been done with it. But this is something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy making these designs, and I think it adds just a little more uniqueness and a little more interest, you know, making it rather making it more interesting. It's not quite as boring if there's a design on it. Like all the crazy swords in video games, the cool ones, the ones that you want, have some like runes or designs on them. So, that's kind of where I get the idea from. And I think that's going to be about it for the blade. Let's see. We're going to Yep, we're going to go move back to object mode, set up another Yuku paint node, and we are going to color our guard. We're going to use a little dropper tool to grab the gray. Be careful doing that because it will change based on the lighting. That's why I went to the darker side where the shade is darker. The light source looks like it comes in from the right, like the upper right. And we're also just going to adjust the color a little bit more. And now we're going to try to find a gold. Like I said earlier, I love dark colors with a gold accent to them. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw on the designs. Oh, this is where I'm like, what is happening? Why is this not working? Like, I'm drawing and nothing's happening. And then after a little bit, it kind of clicks in my head. Uh, the normals are wrong. I've got the outside face is facing in and the inside face is facing out. And it's like, oh, but I, I went the harder route first. I'm like, oh, I messed up on the unwrap, the smart unwrap that does it for me. And now the UQ paint node's messed up. Like, oh, let me see the UV wrap. No, that looks fine. Why is it not working? I just punched my mic. I'm sorry. uh, and here I'm trying, like, okay, I set up the node again. Set it up again. I'm thinking, oh, it's probably fixed now. Yay. And now I have to find the colors that I used again. So go there, like, oh yeah, I gotta darken it, darken. Okay, it's colored. Move that up, texture paint, and it's still not working. Like, oh my gosh, what is happening? What is happening? Is it because of this? Do I go down? No. I'm actually a little frustrated at myself watching this back at how long it took me to figure out why that's not working. Then I was like, wait a minute. Object mode, show me face orientation, and look at that. The blade, the guard, and the pommel are all backwards. So we're just going to select all this. Alt N, I believe, is the keybind to bring this menu up, and we're going to flip the normals around. Oh wait, I forgot the keybind. So there we go, flip the normals. And then flip the normals. And let's see, am I going to go ahead and do it for the bottom? Or I test it out. Oh yeah, it works. Cool. That was the issue. Alright, get this all set up. And now let's start drawing on it. This is some more just symmetry designs. The guards with these flowing sort of, well, not exactly flowing, but they've got a lot of points on them. And I like to flow designs around the silhouette. So you're going to see me kind of go here and, it looks decent. This is a part that I do have trouble with because, yeah, some of these shapes get kind of crazy, you know, and I like everything to connect and flow. Yeah, I didn't like that. Mm. But yeah, this is a big part of my process. Uh, we are 40 minutes in, I think, and this bit, it probably won't take too terribly long because, like I said, this was supposed to be a quick project, um, just for me to see if I could do it, make a video on it. Why not, right? Um, I don't typically go into these things knowing what I want the designs to be. Um, my design process is very much finding the silhouette, building off the silhouette, and then adjusting as needed. And you gotta have designs on the edge too. Well, I guess you don't technically have to, but I like putting designs on the edge of my models. Um, just because, if you were a medieval smith and you etched the front of the guard, like you took all that time to etch it, make it beautiful, um, why would you leave the edge of the guard bland? It would just clash. It would go from, you know, a beautifully etched face to a kind of bland, polished steel. That, at least that's what I think of. And I also do the underside. There's a lot more room down here, but it's also kind of hard to see these areas. So I'm just going to do a few designs here, nothing crazy. And yeah, looks pretty good. Again, I'm biased, so, you know, and you might be sitting there thinking like, oh, he just likes his own stuff a lot. Uh, no, there are parts of this model that I am not happy with. Parts of, specifically the guard that I'm not happy with. Um, but I try not to focus so much on what I don't like. Otherwise, I'll, get zeroed in on it and then spend hours and really not make it anywhere. Um, Again, this is not meant to be a super well thought out project. It was silhouette, make it, color it, be done with it. Um, and then right there you saw me select all the Tauruses and just put a color to it. Uh, and then I'm going to move on. I'm going to select that same color again, and I'm going to try to match it a little bit better. And let's see. Going to add some textures to it, I believe, just so that, it looks a little bit more interesting. I got a noise texture going. Let's zoom in here. You see me moving my mouse around like that. That is because, again, I'm using a drawing tablet. And yeah, that's kind of just how I maneuver. Okay, now we're on to the diamond or crystal, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go with a nice red. So it's going to be a ruby. All we really want is the color and the roughness. We want it to be nice and reflective. Um, one of these days I'll figure out how to make a texture that's a little bit more translucent, but I really do enjoy the just the smooth, reflective sort of crystals. Okay, and now we're gonna color the handle a dark color, and we're gonna select these faces in the indents, and we're gonna mask them, and we're gonna change the color of them a little bit. Just, make it a little bit more interesting. We're gonna go for a nice silver color here, and size up our brush. Turn on, yep, I forgot to hit the mask. Click the mask, go ahead and put that on there. Move to the side, make sure we get those. And we've got it nice and reflective so they look silvery in the handle. And there we go. That is, let's darken it up a little bit. It clashed pretty hard before we darkened it. But yeah, that is the entire sword. So let me know what you guys think of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.